All right, as you can see, I just plugged in my 2022 Mercedes-Benz EQS 580. Now, if you're curious about EVs and you like to read the news and stuff like that, you will undoubtedly have noticed that Mercedes-Benz is on fire. In fact, they've introduced so many EVs in the past 12 months, including this one, that probably in about a year's time, you'll be able to configure online probably at least a half dozen all-electric Mercedes-Benz in Canada. And I do mean configure, because that has nothing to do with the fact of whether or not you'll be able to take delivery of it in that period of time. Now, as you can see, the car is dirty because I've been driving it quite a bit, and I have some incredibly mixed feelings about this. Now, as you know, EQS, the S means S-Class. So this is the S-Class of Mercedes-Benz electric vehicles. And that rings true on some points and completely false on other points. And what Mercedes-Benz wants you to understand is that this is only about $1,500 more than an equivalent S580. So they're banking on the fact that you want an EV, they're banking on the fact that it's an S-Class, but I'm here to tell you that it's not quite an S-Class EV yet. Anyhow, in the following video, we're going to do the walk around of this long car, which is actually longer than an S-Class. And you're not necessarily getting more for your money. I'll touch on that again, obviously. And once I get a little bit more charging into this thing, because it is capable of up to 200 kilowatts, we're plugged on a 350 kilowatt combo right now, and it's only sucking down 91 kilowatts. Oh well, we'll see how that progresses. So stick with us, and we're going to do the little tour of this 2022 EQS 580. Okay, well, this is somewhat disappointing, although in honesty about as irrelevant as 0 to 100 kilometer an hour sprint times, but this car, as I said, is available or capable of sucking down 200 kilowatts, and it's been frozen at 78, and it peaked at 91 a few minutes ago. Relevant, maybe not so much. Anyhow, okay, so we're doing that walk around part of the 2022 EQS, and some of the disappointing things are, well, styling. I mean, I know it's a matter of personal taste and that the car looks the way it does. It has a 0.20 coefficient of drag, making it one of the sleekest production cars in the world. That's obviously for range and other considerations, but as far as the impact on design, oof, here we go. I'm going to be mean. It looks like a snail that's looking for its house. I mean, the CLS has a little bit of a similar profile, but it looks so much nicer than this. It is possible that the black shade, the black color, doesn't help it at all because it doesn't really highlight anything. And the sad part is that my press car has the AMG kit on it with AMG wheels, and it's not really helping it out a lot. And while I'm complaining, this is just an awkward looking badge. It doesn't belong there, and it kind of breaks the lines of the vehicle. Before I go on, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about pricing in the US. The EQS starts at $102,310 because they have a 450. In Canada, the only version we currently have is the 580. In the US, the 580 is $125,900, whereas in Canada, $146,500. Standard equipment, I mean, it's loaded, obviously. This is, as I just mentioned, the S-Class of Mercedes-Benz EVs. So it has a heated front seats that are, energizing and all that business. It's got the MBUX Hyperscreen, which is kind of insane. That's one of the things that I can't stand with this car that I'll show it to you in a moment. It's 56 inches across in total, which is nuts. Burmester audio and all of that. So my car has a fair amount of options. I just touched on one of them, which is the night package, which blacks out everything, gives you these, albeit and honestly, insanely cool, terrible to wash 21-inch wheels, AMG this and that, right? It's got the exclusive Napa leather interior, which is quite nice. It's got the Premier package, which gives you, because as standard you also get rear steer on this car. Well, you can't see it, but it's 4.5 degrees standard. With the premium package, it goes up to 10 degrees, which is kind of nuts. It also has massaging front seats. It's got heads-up display and a bunch of other features. As it sits before you, my friends, $162,150 before all kinds of fees. I won't skip over the cable because I'm going to trip and fall, and yeah, no improvement here, which is kind of unfortunate. So it's a hatchback, which is probably one of the greatest things about this car. By the way, Volkswagen did that almost 10 years ago, but we'll accept it because it works. 580 liters, kind of easy to remember, right? Trunk space. It's really, really nice. It's insanely deep. I mean, I'm right up against the bumper, and there's no way I'm going to reach the end. But still, and there's even space below here, which is all cool, all good. Okay, I'm losing my voice. Excuse me. The door handles are supposed to pop out, and this is what's been happening. Now it's locked. Talk to me. They're supposed to pop out automatically once I get near it, perhaps because it's plugged in. There we go. It does have like a recognition type of setup. You get an idea of the quality of the interior. The blue and white is just insanely gorgeous. The wood selection is beautiful, and there's a incredibly generous amount of legroom in the back. And headroom is really nice despite the profile of the car. You don't have to duck or anything. You could sit 3 across, but you will feel like royalty, 2 of you back there. Oh, it's got a fully digital HVAC controls in the back. It's really, really nice. Oh, by the way, so I said that this thing is longer. Actually, we'll just zoom out. It'll be easier. It's actually longer than an S-Class, right? It's 15 centimeters longer, but it's the same height overall. Actually, I could probably stay there. Oh yeah, I got to show you this. So you probably know this already, but there's no way to easily open the bonnet on this thing. Benz made it so that you have to do all kinds of maneuvers to open it up. A lot of people have. I won't. It's fine. But this, one of the ways to it's just ridiculous. This is for your washer fluid. That's how you refill your washer fluid. And I think you can see that if you ever kind of accidentally walk into that, that's going to break. This is one of those details that frustrate me about this car because it's so flimsy. And this is an EQS. Okay, so yeah. Oh, come on. Frameless doors, which is just absolutely magical. I love the styling. Okay, so here's another great example of the fit and finish and the materials. It's just absolutely beautiful. This is very S-Class like. One thing that's really neat, okay, so white seats are never a good idea. This car, I don't know, it's a couple months old. I forget how much mileage, maybe not even 4,000 kilometers on it, and they're already nasty. But they're extremely comfortable, these seats, by the way. These are the 17,000 way massaging super seats, and they are even more comfortable than they look. Everything is adjustable, by the way. The bolstering. What's cool is the seat controls. They're kind of haptic, but not. They don't move. If you know anything about the bench seats, they usually move fore and aft and up and down. These don't actually move, but the seat does move. It's kind of silly to show it to you this way, but anyhow, that's it. All right, so here we go. Getting in. I think you get an idea here of the screen business going on. Oh, and I'm so happy. You can see all the reflections in there. So this is your 56 inches straight across. So 12.3, 17.7, 12.3. It's too much. Really, realistically, look, I'm zoomed out. This is my driving position. It's a little bit exaggerated, but from my actual position, the first maybe 20% of the screen I can't see because of the steering wheel. So essentially what this car does is encourage the gangster lean. I like to drive close to the steering wheel. And even so, from my eyesight, from my view, I can't see the top. If you can see, though, that the screen, the whole dashboard is, the incline is forward, which I guess is necessary, but still. Oh yeah, you can't see. Look at the reflection. It's terrible. As you drive by with the sun and the clouds, there's movement constantly there. It's as though there was a television that was on and there were just images constantly cycling. This is one of the things that annoys me the most about this car. This is a show car. There you go. There's kind of like one of the concept drawings or whatever. And this is peak disaster as far as screens are concerned. I'm quite convinced that in time we're going to go back to a far more conventional layout, smaller screens, but no more of this. This is terrible. It's horrible. While on the topic of terrible and horrible, this. That's not S-Class. This is what needs to be done to get a car with a battery this size, this kind of range power, to keep it affordable-ish, if you will. That's just, the whole console moves a lot. It's really, really weird. I guess you can't really tell on screen, but all of this, it feels cheap. It's hard. It's like Kia Rio worthy. In fact, I don't even think the last Kia Rio I drove wasn't this plasticky. Even when you get here, it's the same thing. It's just hard plastics, and it's not even padded. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable, I'm telling you now. But otherwise, there's your Burmester audio. Visibility is quite good. And the next thing, thanks to that little piece of glass. Okay, so your controls, as you can see, there aren't any here. There are some here. So I'm going to focus on there. So your volume's pretty straightforward. Right, start, stop. So you have, I'm working through the screen. So your EQ, these are all your driving, EV driving things that appear there. That's kind of nice. These are all your driver assistance menus with this is fairly common. It's on a bunch of other Benzes. And they're your drive modes. So there are 4 of them, so you don't have to bust your head too much. Comfort is ideal. I'll tell you more about that in a second. Sport and individual. In fact, comfort is so well sorted that I've been driving almost exclusively in comfort. Okay, so now we're here. I'm going to try and do this anyway. So there's your home page. Sorry, there's your home menu. The beauty about it is that it only has this. The issue, though, is if you're reaching for this, your elbow often knocks on this little pad, and it'll change things as you're working there. So this is a terrible layout, horrible configuration. Maybe an extra series of buttons should be there. This is another bad idea. This is not S-Class engineering and thinking. The thing is, all right, so let's just say you were back on your nav screen, so you want to go to your home button. Actually, no, climate menu. This is going to be a little bit messed up, but I'm trying to get to a point. So first row, second row, air quality. It's all pretty cool. This is, you can program while it's charging or when you get in the car. You can plan all of that. But if you can see here, there's nothing to do with the actual heated seats or even heated steering wheel. You can fast forward to here if you want. But what I'm trying to show you is that the only way to activate, and I'm making a point of this because that's the way I operate, the only way to get, I don't know if you saw that, but I hope you followed, if you want heated steering wheel, this is the only way to activate it through the heating menu, additional steering wheel heating. That is terrible. There are no other controls or buttons on the steering wheel to make that work. The majority of the menus are fairly straightforward, but you're never going to get through to where you want to go without clicking at least 3 times, which in my opinion is at least 33%, far too many clicks to access any menu. And you can do screen sharing between the two, which is kind of cool. And this, as far as I can tell, is only activated for real. You can change that screensaver, if you will, when someone is sitting in the seat. The reflections are terrible. There are too few buttons. Many of the buttons are just don't always respond. I've had issues. Ambient lighting, that's really cool, admittedly. My daughter absolutely loves it. And this is just beautiful. I mean, this is the S-Class. This is Kia Rio. It's not a good mix. It shouldn't be like this. You expect a certain amount of things from Benz, and it's not all there. Design is another issue. I touched on that, but once you get driving, things get better. So let's do that now. Okay, well, I just said that the driving experience is very good, but there is one major issue with this, and it kind of ties up that whole EQS S-Class that's not an S-Class, and that's the plushness of the ride. Now, when you get an S-Class, you expect that you're not floating above the road, but quite nearly. And this car, with the standard 4MATIC adaptive suspension, it's just not comfortable enough. I might sound like I'm being difficult, but this is an EQS. It's not even an EQE. It's definitely not an EQ whatever smaller car. This is the flagship luxury sedan. Even in comfort, in the most floaty suspension setting, I can still feel far too much of what's going on around me. And, you know, on repeat undulations or over just like nooks and crannies, they're not filtered out. I can feel them right into the steering wheel, which is, in my opinion, unforgivable and unacceptable for a car in this category and price range. Therein, however, ends the issues with this car, because the dual motor setup is just bonkers. Combined, they produce 516 horsepower and 631 pound-feet of torque, which means that this massive automobile launches to 100 kilometers an hour in only 4.3 seconds. I mean, it's just, see, I get the car excited. Just, that was 100% throttle, but for about a quarter of a second. Any longer than that, I'm heading straight to jail. A lot of things that I didn't show you through the menu here, despite the fact that I spent probably way too much time negotiating all of those little clicky things, is that there is a one pedal drive mode or a creep. So I have it in one pedal drive because it's a dream. At least as far as I'm concerned. I've heard that other EV enthusiasts or drivers don't think it's that important, but I think they're wrong. Anyhow, and through the paddle shifters, which you probably saw in the shot of the steering wheel, you can actually there are 3 extra settings for the regen braking. So by default, you start in normal, which is not aggressive, but it feels kind of like normal petrol engine brake or engine regeneration braking. You know what I'm trying to say. And then there's the more aggressive mode, which Benz calls increased recuperation, which is what will allow you to quickly get to a full stop. I'm not mentioning anything. We'll come to a full patient enough, it will eventually come to a full stop. I'm going to go back into increased. The power is great. The steering is nice. Other than I can feel the cracks in the road. I mean, I don't know what the front wheels are doing except for sending all those little impurities, let's call them that, into the cabin, into my buttometer. Brakes, yeah, brakes. With the regen braking, the pedal physically moves, which at first is extremely disconcerting, because as you glide from throttle to brake, you realize the pedal is no longer there. So then you panic, or at least I did, panicked and hit the brake really hard. Only to realize that as the regen braking kind of backs off, the pedal moves back towards your foot. It seems a little bit unnecessary as far as the function is concerned, but you do get used to it quickly, because as you're braking, anyway, it's not that bad, but it's kind of freaky at first. Essentially, that's basically it. I mean, it's not an S-Class, though it is priced like an S-Class, but it is priced like an S-Class because it's a technologically advanced, 107.8 kilowatt hour battery. I almost skipped that. Range, rated at 547 kilometers. When I picked it up, the battery was around 95% full, and I had 580 some odd kilometers indicated as far as range is concerned. And I absolutely have to believe it, because I've been driving this thing, well, like I just kind of showed you, and the range has stayed. I mean, it feels like a petrol engine where it doesn't really dip or drop, no matter how stupid I'm driving it. Beyond 500 kilometers, there is no reason to complain about range. And this, even in winter, in 30 centimeters of snow, even if you lose 40% of your range, you still have well over 250 kilometers, maybe even closer to 300 kilometers of range, which is enough. We can't complain. We don't need more than that. And as far as charging is concerned, well, I kind of gave you a hint, right? This thing is supposed to be able to take down up to 200 kilowatts of power, but we peaked at 91 and it never went over that. In fact, it dipped and it was steady at about 80 kilowatts. At home, on a home charger, you're looking at about 8 or 9 hours for a full charge, which is very acceptable, quite normal. All right, so getting back to, this is the S-Class of EVs at Benz, but it's not an S-Class equivalent. There are far too many corners cut, but unless they wanted to price it over $200,000, this is what Benz had to do. The ride quality is not that great. Would I pick an EQS over a Model S? Absolutely, without hesitating. over a Taycan, no. And I would settle for less range, but for a far more even build quality and just a more dynamic, without any penalties, without any loss in comfort driving experience. But this is still quite impressive. Oh, and by the way, it thinks that the charging port is open all the time, and I'm having digital light functioning is limited. Anyhow, to be expected in one of these cars, unfortunately. So that's it. I'm done.